Have you ever felt a chill run down your spine, not from cold, but from the weight of unspoken stories? From the sense that secrets are breathing all around you, just beyond the veil of the ordinary. For centuries, such sensations have been inextricably linked to a name whispered in hushed tones across continents, a name that resonates with both terror and a strange, unsettling allure: the assassins. The very word conjures vivid, almost cinematic images, doesn't it? Shadowy figures scaling impossible walls, silent forms melting into the night, blades appearing from nowhere to deliver swift, decisive justice, or perhaps injustice, depending on whose story you believe. Popular culture, fueled by the global phenomenon of the Assassin's Creed video games, has solidified these images in our minds. We see hooded warriors, ancient conspiracies, a battle fought in the shadows for the fate of humanity itself. But what if I told you that the true history, the reality lurking beneath the layers of thrilling fiction, is even more compelling, more morally ambiguous, and ultimately more profoundly human? Tonight, we're not interested in digital recreations or Hollywood spectacle. We're stripping away the fantasy, the acrobatic leaps, and the Templar conspiracies. Close your eyes. Imagine yourself transported back in time, to a world far removed from our own. A world of sun-baked deserts, opulent palaces, and the cold, hard truth behind the legend of the assassins. This is the story of the Order of Assassins, as they existed in the harsh light of history. Prepare to have your assumptions challenged. Prepare to confront uncomfortable truths. Prepare to truly understand the legend behind the name. Prepare to hear the chilling reality. A fortress not merely built on a mountain, but seemingly grown from the rock itself. Alamut, in Persian, the eagle's nest, an almost mythical place, clinging impossibly to a razor-edged peak in the Alborz Mountains of Persia, modern-day Iran. In the 11th century, this natural stronghold, seemingly unconquerable, became the epicenter of a movement that would ripple outwards, shaking the foundations of empires and rewriting the rules of power in the medieval world. The 11th century Middle East was a maelstrom of competing forces. The Seljuk Turks, recent converts to Sunni Islam, were aggressively expanding their empire, pushing against the Byzantine Empire and challenging the Fatimid Caliphate in Egypt. Religious tensions were a constant undercurrent, with various Islamic sects vying for dominance, and the Crusades looming on the horizon, about to unleash a wave of Western Christian fervor upon the region. It was a world on edge, a world ripe for disruption. And into this volatile, religiously charged landscape strode a man of extraordinary intellect and unwavering will, Hassan-I Sabbah. History remembers him by many names. Hassan-I Sabbah, the Lord of Alamut, but most famously, the Old Man of the Mountain. He was a master of multiple disciplines. A brilliant military strategist, a deeply learned theologian, a persuasive orator, and above all, a revolutionary. Born into Twelver Shia Islam, he converted to Ismaili Shia Islam in his youth, drawn to its esoteric doctrines and its promise of a more just world. But Ismaili Islam was considered heretical by the Sunni majority, and Hassan-I Sabbah found himself and his beliefs increasingly marginalized, even persecuted. Seeking refuge and a base from which to propagate his faith, he turned his gaze to Alamut. His seizure of Alamut in 1090 was not the storming of a castle by brute force. It was a masterpiece of stealth and deception, a carefully orchestrated infiltration. Hassan-I Sabbah and his followers, disguised as scholars and religious devotees, gradually gained the trust of the fortress's Seljuk garrison. Over time, they converted key figures within the garrison to their Ismaili beliefs. When the moment was right, with minimal bloodshed, they simply took control. It was a bloodless coup, a silent takeover, a chilling demonstration of the power of patience, planning, and unwavering dedication, the very hallmarks that would define the Order of Assassins. From this seemingly impenetrable eagle's nest, Hassan-I Sabbah began to weave a web of influence, not through armies, but through agents. The seeds of the order were sown, and the world was about to witness the terrifying harvest. Fear. It became the Order's most potent weapon, more effective than any blade, any army, any fortress. And fear, in the medieval mind, was inextricably linked to legend. Soon after the establishment of Alamut, whispers began to spread like wildfire, carried by terrified merchants fleeing Persia, wide-eyed travelers returning from the east, and trembling emissaries from threatened rulers. Whispers of the Hashishin. The name Hashishin, meaning literally hashish users, became indelibly linked to the Order in the Western imagination. It was the Crusaders, encountering these mysterious figures during their campaigns in the Holy Land, who first popularized the term in Europe. Later, European travelers, captivated by tales of the exotic East, embellished these accounts, painting a lurid picture of drug-crazed fanatics, blindly obedient to their sinister leader, the Old Man of the Mountain. This image, sensational and easily digestible, took root and flourished. But the truth, as always, is far more intricate and revealing, obscured by layers of prejudice and misunderstanding. Modern historical scholarship has largely debunked the simplistic notion of widespread drug use as the primary engine of the assassin's actions. While it's possible that hashish or other substances may have been used ritualistically or recreationally within the Order, it's highly unlikely it was the key to their effectiveness. Hashishin was almost certainly a derogatory epithet, a propaganda tool wielded by their Sunni enemies to demonize them, to portray them as irrational, immoral, and outside the bounds of acceptable Islamic society. The real source of the assassin's power lay not in chemical intoxication, but in something far more potent: ideological indoctrination and unwavering, almost terrifying discipline. The legends of a false paradise within Alamut are equally captivating and equally misleading. Accounts circulated of lavish gardens, hidden within the fortress walls, meticulously designed to mimic the Islamic vision of paradise. Flowing fountains, beautiful huri, celestial maidens, and every earthly pleasure imaginable were said to await young recruits. The story goes that Hassanai Sabah would drug these young men, transport them to this secret garden while unconscious, and then awaken them in this manufactured paradise. Convinced they had glimpsed the rewards of paradise promised in the Quran, they would return to the harsh reality of Alamut, utterly devoted to Hassanai Sabah, willing to sacrifice anything to return to that blissful state. Again, while a compelling narrative, historical evidence suggests this paradise was likely another exaggeration, a fantastical embellishment designed to amplify the mystique and terror surrounding the assassins, to paint Hassanai Sabah as a sorcerer capable of manipulating minds and perceptions. But even stripped of the sensational myths of hashish and paradise, the unvarnished reality of the Order of Assassins was chillingly effective. They were masters of political assassination, elevated to an art form, a science. Their targets were never chosen at random. They were carefully selected powerful figures who posed a direct threat to the Ismaili community or its political ambitions. Seljuk sultans, viziers, crusader leaders, even rival religious figures. And their methods were as audacious and theatrical as they were ruthlessly efficient. They shunned open warfare, understanding they were vastly outnumbered. Their battlefield was the shadows, their weapon the unexpected blade in the dark. Assassins were meticulously trained in disguise, infiltration, and close-quarters combat. They could blend seamlessly into enemy courts, posing as courtiers, merchants, wandering dervishes. They were masters of languages, customs, and deception. Once inside the enemy's inner circle, they waited, sometimes for months, even years, patiently observing, learning routines, identifying vulnerabilities, until the opportune moment presented itself. Then, with unwavering resolve and chilling precision, they struck. Often in broad daylight, in crowded public spaces, ensuring their act was not just deadly, but also a public spectacle, a terrifying message delivered to all who dared oppose them. And then, as quickly as they appeared, they vanished, melting back into the shadows, leaving behind only chaos, terror, and a chilling sense of vulnerability. No one, it seemed, was safe from the reach of the assassins. How did the assassins become so terrifyingly effective? It wasn't magic, nor drugs, but a rigorous system of training and a mastery of specialized techniques. They elevated assassination to a deadly art form, blending stealth, disguise, and lethal combat skills. Recruits into the order, often young men chosen for their intelligence and physical prowess, underwent years of intense training within Alamut and other fortresses. They were schooled in a variety of disciplines, far beyond mere swordsmanship. They learned languages, enabling them to infiltrate different cultures. They studied disguises and acting, allowing them to blend seamlessly into enemy circles. They mastered parkour-like agility, enabling them to navigate rooftops and scale walls with breathtaking speed and silence. Combat training was brutal and realistic. They were experts in close-quarters fighting, proficient with daggers, swords, and specialized weapons like throwing knives and perhaps even concealed firearms as technology advanced. The hidden blade, popularized by the video games, while perhaps embellished, does reflect the Order's emphasis on discreet, close-range killing. But their true weapon was often surprise and meticulous planning. Assassinations were rarely impulsive acts. Each mission was planned with painstaking detail. Assassins would gather intelligence for months, even years, studying their targets' routines, vulnerabilities, and security arrangements. Infiltration was key. They aimed to get close, to become trusted figures in the target's environment, exploiting any weakness in their defenses. The kill itself was designed to be swift, efficient, and often public. While stealth was paramount for infiltration, the act of assassination was sometimes carried out in broad daylight, in crowded places to maximize the psychological impact. The goal was not just to eliminate a target, but to sow terror and demonstrate the Order's reach and power. And often, the assassin themselves was prepared to die in the act, accepting martyrdom as part of their unwavering commitment to the cause. To fixate solely on the assassinations, to reduce the Order to mere killers, is to fundamentally misunderstand their nature, their purpose, and their enduring legacy. They were far more than just wielders of the blade. They were a remarkably sophisticated, intricately organized, intellectually vibrant, and profoundly ideologically driven movement. They were, in essence, a medieval intelligence agency, a network of spies, scholars, and revolutionaries operating in the heart of a fractured and dangerous world. The blade is but a tool, a last resort. Our true weapons are knowledge, foresight, and the unwavering loyalty of our brethren. Knowledge is our shield against ignorance and discretion, our sword against exposure. Alamut, the eagle's nest, was not simply an impregnable fortress. It was a clandestine university, a repository of knowledge, a vibrant center of intellectual and cultural life. Within its walls, alongside military training and rigorous indoctrination, the assassins cultivated scholarship, engaged in scientific inquiry, and fostered a deep appreciation for learning. They were skilled mathematicians, astronomers charting the heavens from their mountain perch, physicians studying ancient texts, and linguists fluent in multiple languages. This intellectual rigor was not merely for its own sake. It was integral to their operational effectiveness. They were masters of intelligence gathering, developing sophisticated networks of informants that stretched across vast distances. From bustling marketplaces to royal courts, they had eyes and ears everywhere, feeding them a constant stream of vital information about their enemies, their military strength, their political alliances, their personal weaknesses, their impending plans. Their assassinations, therefore, were never impulsive acts of rage. They were meticulously strategic, coldly calculated, and always politically motivated. Each target was carefully vetted, their death serving a specific purpose within a larger, long-term strategy. They were, in effect, waging a form of asymmetric warfare, a targeted campaign of disruption and destabilization against vastly superior forces. They understood the paralyzing power of fear, the psychological impact of their actions, but they also understood the enduring power of ideas, the ability of belief to motivate and mobilize. We do not spill blood for personal gain, nor for the fleeting glory of conquest. We fight not for land, nor for gold, nor for earthly power. We fight for something far greater, far more enduring. We fight for the purity of our faith, for the establishment of justice, for the triumph of truth. This is our sacred duty, our unwavering purpose. At the heart of the order lay a profound religious conviction, a deep and unwavering belief in the Ismaili interpretation of Islam. They saw themselves as divinely appointed defenders of their faith, righteous warriors battling against what they perceived as the corruption and oppression of the Sunni world. This fervent ideological commitment was the very foundation of their legendary discipline, their unyielding loyalty to Hassan I Sabah and his successors, and their extraordinary willingness to sacrifice their own lives, without hesitation, for the greater cause. They believed they were instruments of divine will, and this belief imbued their actions with a terrifying sense of purpose and inevitability. They were not, therefore, simply assassins in the common understanding of the word. They were revolutionaries, intellectuals, theologians, and deeply devout believers, operating in a brutal and unforgiving world of shifting alliances and relentless power struggles. The dagger, for them, was merely a symbolic tool, a means to an end. Their true and enduring strength lay in their minds, their intricate organization, their unwavering ideological commitment, and the chilling mystique they cultivated, a mystique that continues to fascinate and terrify us even today. But what was the true cost of this campaign of assassination? What were the moral implications of their actions? And what were the long-term consequences of wielding terror as a weapon? The Order of Assassins, despite their mystique, operated in a morally gray world, and their choices were not without significant repercussions. We walk a dangerous path. Each life taken weighs upon the soul. Is the cause truly worth the blood we spill? This question must always be asked. While the assassins saw themselves as righteous defenders of their faith, their actions were undeniably acts of violence, of murder. They targeted not just military leaders but also political and religious figures, often in ways that could be seen as undermining legitimate authority, even if that authority was viewed as unjust by the Ismailis. Their methods, while effective, were inherently destabilizing, contributing to the atmosphere of fear and paranoia that gripped the medieval Middle East. The use of assassination as a political tool inevitably provoked brutal responses. Enemy rulers and factions retaliated fiercely against Ismaili communities, leading to cycles of violence and reprisal. While the assassins aimed to protect their people, their actions often drew down further conflict and suffering upon them. The very fear they inspired also isolated them, creating enemies on all sides, making their long-term survival precarious. Furthermore, the legends surrounding the assassins, while contributing to their mystique, also distorted their image and obscured their true motives. The focus on hashish and paradise, even if exaggerated, painted them as irrational fanatics, making it harder for others to understand or sympathize with their cause. In the eyes of many, they were simply ruthless killers, regardless of their underlying ideology. The price of wielding the blade, it turned out, was not just the blood spilled, but also the moral compromises, the cycle of violence, and the lasting shadow cast upon their name. A shadow that continues to darken our understanding of them even today. The magnificent fortress of Alamut, the seemingly invincible eagle's nest, and the formidable power of the Order of Assassins, all were ultimately ephemeral, destined to fade into the annals of history. In the 13th century, the Mongol storm, led by Hulagu Khan, descended upon Persia, an unstoppable force of conquest and destruction unlike anything the world had ever seen. In 1256, after a protracted siege, Alamut, the heart of the Ismaili state, finally fell to the Mongol onslaught. The fortress, once a beacon of defiance, was systematically dismantled, stone by stone, reduced to ruins. The legendary library, a treasure trove of knowledge accumulated over centuries, was put to the torch, its wisdom lost to the flames. And with the fall of Alamut, the organized power of the assassins, as a unified force, was decisively broken. But even in defeat, even in destruction, the whispers refused to be silenced. The legend of the assassins, forged in fear and fascination, proved remarkably resilient. It transcended geographical boundaries, linguistic barriers, and the relentless march of time. It lived on in the chronicles of medieval historians, in the fantastical tales of European travelers, in the folklore of the Middle East, woven into the very fabric of human storytelling. They became archetypal figures of myth, potent symbols of stealth, unparalleled deadly skill, unwavering devotion to a cause, and the terrifying power of the unseen hand. And in our modern world, centuries after the fall of Alamut, the name assassin has experienced a remarkable resurrection, a vibrant reimagining, a global popularization unlike anything Hassan I Sabbah could have ever conceived. This unlikely resurgence is largely thanks to the Assassin's Creed video game franchise, a multimedia empire that has captivated millions across the globe. While these games take enormous creative liberties, embellishing and fictionalizing the historical order to create thrilling interactive narratives, they are undeniably rooted in that enduring historical fascination with the assassins. The games tap into the core elements of the myth, the hidden blades, the breathtaking rooftop acrobatics, the clandestine brotherhood battling for a hidden agenda, even as they diverge dramatically from the complex, nuanced, and often brutal historical reality. They offer us a romanticized, heroic vision of the assassin, a stark contrast to the often morally ambiguous figures who actually walked the mountains of Persia centuries ago. So, as we conclude our journey into the heart of this enduring legend, let us remember to look beyond the captivating fictions, beyond the thrilling games, beyond the sensationalized myths. Let us strive to hear, beneath the layers of time and embellishment, the faint but persistent whispers of history. For the true story of the Order of Assassins, stripped of its romantic veneer, is a story far more complex, far more morally challenging, far more intellectually stimulating, and ultimately, far more profoundly human than any myth could ever hope to be. It is a story of power, belief, fear, and the enduring legacy of a movement that, for a time, held the medieval world in its shadow. And so, the whispers fade for now. But the echoes of the assassins still resonate through history, reminding us that truth is often stranger, and always more complex, than fiction. If you've been captivated by this exploration into the real history of the assassins, be sure to like this video, subscribe to our channel for more journeys into the mysteries of the past, and share this story with anyone who dares to listen. What other historical enigmas are you eager to unravel? Let us know in the comments below, and until next time, keep listening to the whispers in the dark.